The wedding dress was still pristine white when she collapsed in the snow, but the blood trailing from her bare feet painted a darker truth. Daniel Morrison had known death in many forms: calves lost to winter, hunters mauled by bears, but never one wrapped in silk and lace, slumped against his cabin door. He froze in the doorway, 2 steaming coffee mugs burning his calloused hands, staring at the figure crumpled on his porch steps. The blizzard had raged for 3 hours, turning the Colorado mountain pass into an impenetrable wall of white. No sane traveler ventured these roads in such weather. No one except the desperate. Behind him, 8-year-old Tommy's coughing fit rattled through the small cabin. The boy's lungs had been fragile since birth. Winter storms always worsened the congestion. Daniel should have been inside, tending the kettle for Tommy's steam treatment, not gaping at a stranger who'd somehow reached the most remote cabin in 3 counties. The woman stirred, lifting her head. Dark hair clung to pale skin, her lips were blue, fingers blackened by frostbite. She hadn't been out long, or she'd already be gone. The dress, torn and muddied now, still bore expensive lace and pearl buttons. This was wealth, and wealth brought trouble. "Papa." Tommy's thin voice carried over another cough. "Who's there?" Daniel set the mugs down and crunched into the snow. The wind knifed through his wool shirt, but he barely felt it. Up close, she looked worse, blood seeping through torn silk, breath shallow and panicked. She was dying, and she knew it. "Please," she rasped, voice lost in the howl. "Don't let him find me." Daniel's jaw tightened. A runaway bride was trouble enough, a hunted one was far worse. He scanned the tree line, no lights, only swirling snow. 4 now. He lifted her easily, she weighed almost nothing. Through the silk he felt sharp bones, she'd been starved, willingly or not. The cabin's heat struck them like a wall as he kicked the door shut. Tommy sat hunched over a pot of steaming water, shoulders shaking with each breath. His eyes widened as Daniel laid the woman on the couch by the fire. "Papa, is she an angel?" the boy whispered. "She's beautiful. She's a woman who needs help, son." Daniel piled blankets over her shivering form. Her skin was ice, her lips had grayed. He'd birthed calves in blizzards and stitched wounds by lantern light, but severe exposure was new territory. After Sarah died 8 years ago, he'd sworn off caring for anyone but Tommy. Caring led to loss, and he couldn't survive another. Yet here she was, dying in his living room while Tommy watched with trusting eyes. "Tommy, fetch the whiskey from the cabinet. And more wood." As the boy scurried off, Daniel cut away the soaked dress. Beneath lay a map of bruises, old yellow ones, fresh purple blooms. Someone had beaten her systematically. "Jesus," he muttered. No wonder she'd chosen a blizzard over a wedding. Her eyes fluttered open, dark brown, filled with terror. She tried to sit up. "Shoo," Daniel said gently, easing her down. "You're safe here. No one will hurt you." "You don't understand," she gasped, faint Spanish traces in her cultured accent. "He'll come. Ricardo always gets what he wants. Not tonight. Tonight you're under my roof." Tommy returned with whiskey and firewood, breathing easier after the steam. He stared at the woman in open wonder. "What's your name?" he asked softly. Something softened in her face. "Elena. Elena Vasquez. I'm Tommy. This is my papa. He fixes everything." Elena's attempted laugh became a sob. "Not this, little one." Daniel pressed a fire-warmed stone to her feet. The cuts were deep, she'd run miles in silk slippers. "Miss Elena," he said quietly, "I need to know if anyone's following. My boy's health is poor, I can't invite trouble." Tears filled her eyes. "I'm sorry. I never meant." "Nobody's leaving in this storm," he cut in. "But I need the truth." She closed her eyes. "Ricardo Mendoza. My fiancé. Money, men, territorial connections. When he learns I ran," she shuddered. "He'll kill me before he lets me shame him." Tommy coughed again, instinctively. Elena struggled upright. "The child's lungs," she said urgently. "Congestion. Do you have eucalyptus or pine needles?" Daniel stared. "You know medicine. Convent school in Santa Fe. The sisters taught healing arts." Before he could reply, Hoofbeats cut through the wind, multiple riders pushing hard through the storm. Elena went rigid. Tommy's breathing quickened with fear. They were coming. The stand. Daniel's mind raced. 3, maybe 4 riders, calling her name with arrogant authority. Seconds remained. Elena, can you sit? Pretend to be family. She nodded weakly. He settled her in a chair by the fire, draping a quilt to hide the ruined dress. Tommy instinctively took her hand. The pounding on the door was sharp, demanding. Open up. Territorial business. Daniel opened it a crack, cold whipping inside. 3 men on the porch, horses restless behind them. The leader, tall, lean, cruel-eyed, expensive coat barely dusted by snow, was clearly Ricardo Mendoza. Evening, he said with false courtesy. We're looking for a woman. Dark hair, white dress. Mentally unwell. Concerned for her safety. Haven't seen anyone but my sister-in-law, Daniel said flatly. Came from Denver to help with my boy's lungs. Ricardo tried to peer past. Perhaps we could warm ourselves inside. My son's condition is contagious. Strangers upset him, worsens his breathing. On cue, Tommy coughed convincingly. Elena's soft Spanish lullaby drifted from within. Ricardo hesitated. The storm worsened, his men looked miserable. A deputy spoke up. Sir, this weather's deadly. If she's out there, she won't last. She's tougher than she looks, Ricardo muttered, but turned away. If you see anything, send word to town. There's a reward. Daniel closed the door and waited until their torches vanished. Elena trembled violently. He'll return. Then we'll make you strong enough for what comes. He turned to Tommy, whose breathing had eased. You said you know healing. What can you do for him? Elena examined the boy with practiced gentleness. Not consumption, thank God. Inflamed airways. Honey and pine needle tea. As Daniel gathered supplies, she prepared a superior steam treatment. Tommy relaxed visibly. No one had ever tended him so skillfully. Later, after Tommy slept peacefully, Elena stood by the window in Sarah's old clothes, watching the storm. They fit, she said quietly. Your wife's things. She was small like me. Sarah died birthing Tommy. I've carried the guilt 8 years. Childbirth is dangerous. It wasn't your fault. I should have taken her to Denver. And she might have died on the road. You kept your son alive. That matters. Outside, the blizzard raged on. Tomorrow would bring new dangers. But tonight, Tommy breathed easy, and Daniel was no longer entirely alone. The choice. Dawn brought 6 riders, Ricardo, a nervous territorial judge, a reluctant sheriff, and armed men. Elena stood beside Daniel and Tommy, wearing Sarah's clothes but carrying herself with quiet dignity. Judge Harrison read from papers. Legal marriage contract signed by your father. By fleeing, you breached it. Tommy piped up, she doesn't want to marry him. He's mean. Ricardo's face darkened. Elena displayed the blood-stained wedding dress. This blood is from Ricardo's blow during the final fitting. Seamstress Mrs. Garcia witnessed it. Ricardo called her unstable. Then Daniel spoke. Judge, if Miss Vasquez married another, would that void Mendoza's contract? Yes, if legitimate. Then let's settle it now. He turned to Elena. Will you marry me? Silence fell. Tommy clapped. That means Miss Elena would be my mama. Ricardo exploded with threats. Elena looked at Daniel, at the men who'd sheltered her, protected her, offered freedom, and at Tommy, eyes shining with hope. Yes, she said clearly. I will. Judge Harrison sputtered about procedures, but Daniel pressed, you have authority to perform marriages, don't you? As the hasty ceremony began, more riders appeared, Ricardo's private guards with a deputy marshal and arrest warrant for Daniel. Elena stepped forward. I came willingly. I married willingly. The marshal cited duress and mental incompetence. Tommy clung to her. You're my mama now. Elena produced her journal, dates, injuries, witnesses. She read aloud. With each entry, the men shifted uncomfortably. Tommy confronted Ricardo. "You hurt her. Papa says men who hurt ladies are cowards." Tension snapped when the local sheriff vouched for Daniel, and the marshal declared he'd investigate the abuse claims. Ricardo stormed off with threats, but the immediate danger retreated. The community. 3 days later, Ricardo returned with a commissioner and an indebted judge, armed with forged medical testimony and Elena's father's coerced confession. But the mountain community arrived too. Neighbors Elena had helped in mere days, births assisted, bones set, lungs eased. One after another, they testified to her skill, character, and the visible improvement in Tommy's health. Faced with genuine witnesses versus paid ones, and Elena's documented evidence, the commissioner ruled in her favor. Ricardo's attempted bribery sealed his humiliation. He was ordered to leave the territory or face charges. 1 year later. Spring sun warmed the expanded cabin, now home and clinic both. Tommy chased butterflies with strong lungs. Elena tended her herb garden, hands once bloodied in a wedding dress now healing the mountain folk. Another patient approached. Daniel called from the porch, voice warm with love. A letter confirmed Ricardo's conviction for a prior murder. Justice, slow but certain. That evening, as another blizzard gathered, desperate knocking sounded. A young woman collapsed on their step, baby in arms, feet bleeding, eyes wild with fear. "Please, help us." Elena opened the door wide. The light that had once saved her now guided others. The cycle of refuge continued in the Morrison cabin, proof that broken lives, given sanctuary and purpose, could become the sanctuary others desperately need.